Dr. Mark Changizi here with your Science Moment. Today I'm going to talk about free expression again. And it's more than what it's often characterized to be. Often free expression is really summarized as censorship or being against censorship, and often it's concerning government censorship. There's a playlist here in my Science Moment series on free expression that I recommend. And I've tried to highlight many ways in which free expression really goes beyond just one's right to have the government not prevent you from saying sentences. It goes quite beyond that. Free expression is really concerning tolerance of the general population concerning what other people say. It also isn't just about sentences or propositions. It's also about emotional expressions. Ultimately, it's these emotional expressions that truly undergird the degrees to which we're confident about what we're claiming, or the degree to which we think other people are not confident. And these things, every time that we express these things, whether in words, these emotional expressions with words, or actually on our faces, we're betting social capital. We're betting social currency that if it turns out we're wrong, because we trash talked and it turns out we're wrong, we lose capital and other people will gain it, or vice versa. Free expression is more than just the right to say sentences without government interference. But there's another aspect of it, sort of coming at it from different angles to show that free expression isn't just this, it's actually this. It's actually much bigger. It's a much more complicated thing. Here I want to focus on a comparison with free trade, or the right to free commerce, for individuals to freely trade and spend their money as they wish. Now, this has come up with Justin Trudeau's freezing the bank accounts of anyone who's been organizing protests against his emergency 2 years of authoritarian emergency justifications for violating civil rights and informed consent and so on. Sort of motivated by that, because one is certain kinds of behaviors with one's credit cards are potentially stopped, or one's credit card is frozen altogether. Now, we know in the case of free trade that there's sort of two big pieces of that, and the word trade just refers to the ability to buy certain kinds of things. So one kind of violation of free trade would be that say, look, you can no longer buy these sorts of things. Top-down control from government sometimes does those sorts of things, and that would be very analogous to saying, look, you can't say these certain kinds of things, and when you say certain kinds of things, it's not just merely an utterance. Again, you are actually spending social capital. When you get into discussions or debates with other people, you're putting a lot of social capital on the line. It's like money, something valuable that you can then lose or gain, depending on, again, how the discussion goes and how reality is in terms of what you were saying. Financial capital is what you use to move the economic world. Social capital is a kind of energy, in some sense, that people can accumulate over time, and you can use that to move the social world. So in the economic versus social worlds, you can have the government, or you can have any facets of just culture itself, which are preventing people from spending, from using their capital in certain kinds of ways. And again, that's in the economic world. That's banning certain kinds of purchases of certain sorts of things. And in the social world, that would be that you can't say or argue or express ideas or content related to certain kinds of topics. And I think within the free expression world, often people imagine that's all there is. It's all about things you can't say. You're not allowed to say that kind of thing. But it's much more than that. And I think it's much clearer that it's more than that in the economic side of things, because another thing the government can do is just confiscate or freeze your assets. Just take it all. Right? Now, you could say, well, let's suppose they weren't banning people from buying any certain kinds of things, but they just froze certain people's assets. Now, that's obviously a violation of trade. There's no sense in engaging all of these kinds of trades and having supposedly free commerce if at any time the government can come along and confiscate all that you've built. It undermines the entire point of having a free market and so forth. Now, and so it's sort of obvious in the economic side, but I think it's helpful to remind ourselves that one of the motivations for free expression isn't just that the individuals need to be able to make certain kinds of claims. It's also that in making those claims and betting social capital, and then being rewarded if you're right or wrong and losing, and these reputations rise over time and they fall over time, and the entire massive free market of ideas, the free market of expression, then settles out, and over time the truth becomes more and more clear, and people rise and fall. It's those, as we accumulate reputation because we said more and more true things, that's a kind of social wealth. It's a social currency wealth that you've accumulated. Free expression is just as much about those reputation networks. It's just as much about the accumulation and loss of social wealth, social currency, as it is about the individual claims. They're all part of the same thing. So when Facebook, let's say, just suddenly bans an entire group that are trying to discuss something, or they're banning a particular person, that group, or the person that started the group, or these people, all of their social wealth, which they may have accumulated over a decade, is being confiscated. It's as if it's just being burned. It's not even like Twitter, let's say, if they suspend you, can benefit from that social capital. They've just effectively burned that wealth. So I guess the only point of this moment video is to try to help give you a better appreciation for the value of free expression. It's not just so that people can be free to say stuff. It's so much more than that. It's the entire structure of how civilization is put together, is with all, and science itself is just a special case, of all of these individuals partaking in purchases or interactions, which are discussions and debates. And through those interactions, there's trades and transactions of social currency. And you need to be allowed to do that. That's just the speech itself or the expressions itself. But you also have to allow those individuals to vary, rise, and fall and accumulate their social wealth. Without that, the system is completely undermined. That's the true value of having free expression in the first place. It's that total picture. And that was your science moment.